Hi, I'm Kate. Okay, so this is a little mad, so don't take me too seriously. um, so this is called Space Time and the Paradox of Free Will and Determinism, and I just thought I'd have a little fun with these thoughts. And it came about a few weeks ago. I woke up at 2 a.m. and I began to ponder something I have, like probably many other people, pondered for many years. I asked myself the question, do I have free will? And I last went into depth about this question around a decade ago. And I came to the immediate conclusion that I was not able to answer with any impartiality because essentially I'd be asking myself if I exist. And if the answer's no, then how could I have asked the question? Furthermore, I would not be free to select an answer. Therefore, I, as a questioning entity, must, for the sake of impartiality, recuse myself from the pondering. So what should I do? I concluded that what I could do was kind of wear the potentially uncomfortable option as if it was a piece of clothing. And I chose to believe wholeheartedly that for the sake of a thought experiment, that I have no free will. I would wear it as if it was a coat, just to see how it felt and fitted. And the first thing that came to mind, as it often does for most people, was if I have no free will, then can I just let go of the steering wheel of life and what will be will be? Can I do whatever I want, absolved from all responsibility? But the thing is, I didn't let go of the steering wheel. And the second thought that crossed my mind was, if I believe that everything I do is predetermined by the previous state of the universe, then how can I be emotionally immersed in my environment and the experiences? But then I told myself, when you watch TV, a film, a play, or read a book, you're totally emotionally immersed. You know that it's fixed, predetermined as it were. In fact, even though you know most stories follow a similar arc, you still laugh, cry, and hope that the bad guy does not do the gory deed. You somehow feel that you can will a different outcome. Also, you consume the book, film, play, TV show a second time, now knowing it's not only predetermined, but what will happen. And you still feel you can will a different outcome. And you're yet again totally consumed with emotion. See, our brains have evolved in tandem with our environment into incredible reality machines, in such a way as to present our minds with similar enough versions of reality to each other. And these realities projected into our minds enable us all to be fully emotionally immersed in our everyday experiences. If we knew for certain that every twist, turn and unfolding of the universe was predetermined by its starting conditions or previous state, we would still be fully emotionally immersed in our every moment. We would not let go of the steering wheel. And as for responsibility, our society is built on a set of rules that mean we are responsible for our actions, whether we have free will or not. And this feedback mechanism of responsibility is what keeps us all in check and allows a civil society to function. These consequences of our actions are what, in part, determine or moderate our actions. They're just all part of the system. So I pushed this thinking a little further. I wanted to also wear the hat and gloves of free will, alongside the coat of determinism. Could I have it both ways? I thought, well, if a physicist can say that light is both a particle and a wave, then why can I not have free will and determinism at the same time? Is it possible that in any given moment I'm free to choose whatever I want to do, and that the very choice I make is the choice that I was always going to make? This is, of course, a paradox. How can both be true? A paradox often occurs, though, when we map two opposing states into an environment or worldview within which the wrong set of dimensional space exists. What I considered was, if the dimensionality of space and time are not what we commonly believe, which to be honest, I don't actually know what that is, then perhaps there's a way that both free will and determinism can be both not just possible at the same time, but entirely obvious, in a similar way that several hundred years ago would have been entirely at odds with anyone's thinking that a ship could sail off into the sunset one evening and reappear several weeks and months later from the sunrise in the opposite direction, because obviously, with our hindsight, they had the dimensionality of the Earth very wrong. The Earth has no edge, it has no beginning nor end, and as most humans now know, the Earth is a sphere. And it's obvious to most of us that if you sail off in one direction and continue without hitting land, you will appear from the other direction. So when I awoke at 2 a.m. those few weeks ago, I had two questions. What mechanism enables an entity to have free will, and what dimensionality of space and time could permit it? For me to have free will, I must have at least one dimensionality of freedom from my environment. I must be at least a partially independent entity within the universe, rather than a wholly dependent and connected part of the universe. And this would require a special set of physics, that the atoms of my physicality and energy flowing through them, or their movement with the passage of time, could, in at least some way, be decoupled from the rest of the universe. This would enable me to make a change or choice that would have no impact on the rest of the universe, or that despite the present state of the universe surrounding me, I would be free to move independently. I just can't see how this is possible in any way. I can't conceive of a mechanism for this. I am entirely coupled to the universe. Every movement of any atom that I consist of is determined by the previous state of the universe. I am a consequence or manifestation of my environment within the universe. I am entirely coupled to my environment, and ultimately the entire universe. Then I don't exist as a separate entity. I am in fact my environment. There is no edge to who I am, and ultimately I am the universe. Now, by definition, the universe, which is me, is everything. The universe is coupled to nothing. Its next state is not dependent on anything external. Its next state is entirely dependent on itself and the physics which describe it. So this is where I get a little more weird. If the universe is not dependent on anything external, then perhaps the universe can have free will. And because I am the universe, then by extension, I have free will. Furthermore, what if the universe, like the Earth, has no edge, no beginning nor end? What if the universe is entirely spherical, or some other type of dimensionality? And what if that dimensionality, if I were able to conceive it, would make it entirely obvious that there can be no outside the universe, and that there is just the universe? We often question what is beyond the edge of the universe, what is on the other side, but we seldom question what's beyond the smallest thing. What if infinitely small meets infinitely large? I need to add, although, that in this definition of the universe, it is independent from anything else external, which there can't be because it would have no way of knowing of its existence. It is still essentially wholly dependent and determined by its own previous state. But for the sake of this thought process, I'm defining the free will of the universe as a total independence from anything external and extending that to myself. So what about time? What if time has a similar dimensionality? What if it was also entirely obvious that if we could conceive it, that time could not possibly have an edge or beginning nor end? That time is entirely spherical, as it were. This would mean that we are in some kind of loop or donut of space and time, perpetually swirling around and around with no beginning nor end. There was no before and there will be no after. There just is. After all, the sign for infinity does imply an endless loop. It would be as though the edge of my screen here is not an edge. And if I was to push my arm out here, then it just reappears from the other side. And you, although you're watching this video, you do not know how many times I've recorded it to get it just right. And I don't know how many more times I'm going to have to record it until I no longer screw it up. So as I lay there now at 4 a.m, I wrapped all of these thoughts up together. In any given moment, I have a freedom to choose what to do, because in that moment, I am the universe choosing what to do with its own power of free will, and that what the universe chooses to do is what it was always going to choose to do, and that this is possible because that choice in that moment becomes the precedent for itself, allowable because time is in a loop or a spiral, and each time we go around it's slightly different than the time before. The present becomes its own prologue. It is the previous state of what happened or will happen. And okay, I realise the others are ponderings or dreams of a mad woman. Well, to be fair, I was half asleep. What makes me a little mad, though, is that I chose to remember, write it down, and share it with you. And if you exercised your free will, as it were, to listen to me and maybe even believe me, then perhaps you're just as mad as me. But then again, you are me. So before I go, there's one final thought. Yes, I'm responsible for every choice I make, and with choice comes consequence. And I can use the outcomes of those choices to weigh decisions I make in the future or the past. But I am not in any way responsible for choices I did not have the opportunity to make. I should strive to make the best decisions I can in those moments. And when I look back, feel content that given the evidence I had and state of mind I was in, I made the best choice I could at that time. But what we should not do is look at the lives other people lead, the things they have, the opportunities they're given, and allow ourselves to feel anguish or jealousy. Because if there was not a set of choices we could have made to get ourselves into their shoes, then it was never going to be. And a thought in any other way is just an act of self-harm. In fact, because you are the universe, you are those people. You have their blessings and their pains, and vice versa. In every moment, take the time to feel the power of the universe to make your best choice, and know that even if you get it wrong, you can perhaps have a better shot next time. Unless you come back as a lizard. Thank you.